You sit at a long wooden table, casting shadows on faces you barely know. Okay, before we uncover what's really on that table, if you love the dark, hidden truths of medieval Europe, make sure you subscribe right now. These untold files drop every week. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The smell of roasted meat fills the hall, mixed with smoke, sweat, and the sour tank of ale. A servant sets down a steaming platter boar, dripping with fat, its skin crackling. Others follow, trenchers of bread, bowls of porridge, salted fish, and pies. Our stomach growls. Okay? But here's the secret. No one tells you. The very food in front of you could kill you. We picture medieval life as knights feasting endlessly. But what people really ate was a gamble. Every bite could nourish or destroy. Okay? If you were unlucky, the meal before you could be your last. Imagine you're a peasant in the 13th century. Your daily food. Bread. Not fluffy loaves, but hard, dark bread, baked from rye and barley. It fills your stomach. But there's a hidden danger in every slice. A black fungus called ergot. Eat it, and your hands twist in pain. Your skin burns like fire. Your mind filled with visions of demons. Its entire villages convulsed and screamed, believing hell itself had broken loose. The church called it divine punishment, but in truth, it was just bread that could kill. Now, imagine you're a noble. Your table groans under meat, pork, venison, beef, swan. But here's the secret no one dared whisper. Without refrigeration, most of it was spoiled. Servants masked the stench with heavy spices. You would lift a golden goblet, tear into a roast, never knowing if what you ate carried invisible killers. And that wasn't the only danger. The poison was real. Arsenic in wine, powdered metals in pies. A rival could smile across the table while slipping death into your meal. More kings and dukes than you'd think fell not on the battlefield, but at their own banquets. Pause. Think about that. Would you take another bite or push your plate away? The peasants didn't even have that choice. Their survival came from pottage, a stew of beans, cabbage, onions, peas, thick, filling, and deadly, because the water was filthy. Rivers carried waste, disease, and parasites. So every spoonful could infect you. Okay? That's why even children drank ale boiled in brewing, safer than water itself. Before I reveal the deadliest medieval food, make sure you're subscribed. Keys, declassified files of medieval life, drop every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. Now, let's talk about fish. The church forbade meat for nearly half the year. That meant fish, and more fish. But in towns far from the sea, fish had to be preserved, salted, dried, or pickled. By the time it reached your plate, it could be crawling with worms. Still, you ate it. Because hunger doesn't wait for freshness. And then there was honey. Sweet, golden, safe. Or so it seemed. In regions where bees fed on toxic plants, their honey became poisonous. A pie filled with mad honey could make you vomit, hallucinate, even die. Imagine being served dessert, then slipping into visions of fire and demons. Would you call it witchcraft or just bad luck? Okay? Grand banquets, danger wasn't just on the plate. Tid was in politics. Okay? Refuse a dish, and you might insult a lord. Drink from the wrong cup, and you might be accused of cowardice. Every bite was not only survival, but a test of loyalty. A medieval table was more dangerous than the battlefield, and famine only made it worse. In years when crops failed, peasants mixed bark, weeds, even acorns into bread. It filled bellies, but some of these famine foods were toxic. They left people weak, paralyzed, or dead. Yet they ate them anyway. Conga has no patience. The rich weren't safe either. Their addiction to sugar and meat brought gout, obesity, and sudden death. Their obsession with exotic spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, Clothes cost fortunes, but counterfeit spices filled the markets. Some were mixed with powdered brick, others with deadly dust. Every taste of cinnamon was a gamble with fate. Here's a cliffhanger for you. Medieval doctors knew more than we think. Hidden in their manuscripts are warnings: spoiled fish corrupts the stomach. Dark grains bring madness. Too much meat inflames the blood. They didn't understand germs, but they weren't blind. Okay? They saw the patterns, and still, most ignored them, because food in medieval Europe wasn't just survival. It was power. The nobility's endless feasts reminded peasants of their place. The church's fasting days controlled diets. Every meal was tied to faith, status, and control. To eat was to play politics. Now, picture yourself again at that banquet. The hall is filled with music, dice, laughter. Then, silence. A noble across from you gasps, his hand clutching his throat. He collapses onto the table. Poison, spoiled meat, God's wrath. No one dares to speak. Your eyes drop to your plate, your cup, and suddenly the food before you doesn't look so safe anymore. Before I tell you the final twist, if you've been holding your breath like I have, make sure you're subscribed. These declassified medieval files drop every week, because here's the darkest truth. Even in famine, even in plague, people still believed their food wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. Bread wasn't just bread. Wine wasn't just wine. They were symbols, prayers, curses, salvation, or damnation. To eat was to risk not only your body, but your soul. And that's why what medieval people really ate could kill you not just with poison or disease, but with fear, faith, and power. So, what do you think? Would you risk a bite of rye bread knowing it could drive you mad? Would you sip a goblet of wine, unsure if it carried arsenic? Or would you push your plate away and starve? If you thought this meal was dangerous, wait until you hear about the medieval cures that were far deadlier than the diseases themselves. Subscribe so you don't miss the next file.